If everything's started, we'll
yeah,
just get
we'll
rolling.
just have,
They can take the minutes from the video.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say.
Okay. Well, then we'll get moving here, I think. Oh, there she is.
Oh, there she is. Okay, I was able to start it, but then I was thinking we needed the little DVD thingy or whatever
This is
to,
called.
So, yeah,
Hopefully it works. Just let's grab a different one.
okay, sorry. Then we can take care of it.
All set?
I think so.
I'll wait for it to boot up.
Yeah. Firing up,
All right.
as Alder Neal said the other night. Not you. We're good.
All right. They usually go together, that's it.
Do you need the projector though?
I don't think we do. I don't know, but I think Mary Ann just hit a button on the,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she turned it on. Okay.
so must,
Yeah.
everything must have came to life.
I just thought it'd be good to have.
Ah,
Sorry, that was my bad.
okay.
I didn't want
I'll
to
start.
either use it or turn it on. That's
All right, it's 8:07 a.m. and we have a quorum present this morning, so I will call on Thursday, June 18th, 2024, I'll call the Capital Improvement Program Committee to order this morning. We only have one item on our agenda today, and that's to conduct CIP project prioritization and formulate the funding recommendations. And we met a few weeks ago in June. We received presentations from all of the departments requesting funding through CIP Capital Improvement Program, and took that information home, ranked it, and we have the scores in front of us. You should have received a link or something, or that's off the city's calendar with that packet of information. Just to remind everybody, we have a total amount of funding requests of $3,319,350. In our budget, we have a general property tax levy allocated of $550,000. So that gives us a shortfall of $2,769,350. So we've got, I guess the process for today is to go down the list and see how far we can get with the limited funds we have available to us. Looking at the list, I did a quick calculation, and if we just go down from the ranking from the highest to lowest, we get all the way through items such as the Paratech airbag set, the runway 523 reconstruction, fire station 3 cascade system, upgrade the door controls, PFAS-free turnout gears, forward post lift replacement, fleet for the fleet garage, apron reconstruction, rehabilitation for the airport, and we stop at the asset management software with a total amount expenditure of $503,000 for that program. So the next item on the list would normally be the River Edge Trail Extension from Community Development, and that's $250,000, so that definitely wouldn't fit into the scope of what we have available. So,
We did go,
Mary Ann, then I'll take Lisa.
oh, I'm sorry.
Or Lisa, do you want to go first?
Yeah, just a question, because, you know, if we run out of money after the asset management software, right? So that's
yes.
included, okay. And so then beyond that, if we have an alternative fund source, we maybe could take up a couple extra things, right, normally? So just given the location of the River Edge Trail Extension, is it possible to fund that from the TID
Yeah.
without using the capital debt or the levy for?
Yes.
So we could maybe move the line down, at least to get that, only because we're using room tax.
Right.
And, you know, if you don't use room tax, it just sits in the pot, so, right? I
It
mean,
could be a combination, yeah, yeah, we've got listed here under funding description, room tax funds, so that wouldn't affect the levy, so, yeah, either
well,
account.
it's a 500,000 total, so 250 from room tax, and the other 250 is what we were ranking for,
Okay, yep.
right? So if that 250 would come from the TID, we could probably still get that one extra item.
Correct.
Okay.
And the other thing, we went back and looked, so John had requested some, his projects in prior years, and they were fully funded in those prior years. So with carryover dollars, he wouldn't need any money for his.
For his airport stuff?
523, for the 1331 rehab, and then the apron reconstruction rehab.
So that frees up,
So we've allocated that previously.
right?
Yes.
So that frees
Okay.
up, what, 103,000 at least, right?
Right.
93.7, and then what was his other one? 20. So, then if that's carryover, maybe we could get 103,000 further down the list. I guess it's, well, at the rate we're
Well-
going, it's probably one item.
Well, with 103,000 down the list, and we expended 503,000, that would cover the phone system upgrades at 150,000.
Yeah.
And we'd be maxed out. The next item on the list is the City Hall chimney liner at 130, so we wouldn't.
Right, and I know, like, the mayor has stated some aggressive budget goals, but on the other hand, when we don't invest any more money into capital, even though we have, increased demands and increased deferrals, we had been trying to increase that levy about $100,000 a year. So, if you wanted to make a recommendation to, add another 100,000, you would be able to do that chimney liner too. I think the other thing, both Eric and Jerry are here, the asset management software, I think the city is thinking to postpone implementation for a year on that. If we did that, that would then get us further down the line.
So just
So
a
I don't know if anyone
question-
wants to
Just a
speak on
question
what
on
the
that, I
impact
guess.
of that would be.
Phone system, we have that equipment replacement fund that we use for technology. Could we not get enough from it? It's a separate, because we CIP the phone system initially, right? The first time,
Yes.
early on.
Yes.
And then, between computers and all of the different technology requests, cameras, all this stuff, we built this little fund for
Mm-hmm.
that type of stuff, because it's cyclical things that you always need. It's
Right.
not, would we have any funding in there that we wouldn't have to take on new?
We might have some funding. Typically, we're spending those allotments every year.
Right.
But I could look at that.
Yeah, I guess just see if we would prioritize something different in the acquisition from that,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, maybe we don't replace monitors and printers and we do this instead or something. I don't know what the difference would be, but.
Okay. So that
Even
would
if
be
we could, even if we could
fourth.
get half of it out of there, we'd get a little further,
Get a little further, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get the chimney liner into the, into CIP, because I could see that really creating problems in the future very quickly.
Yeah.
And then at that point, that had an average ranking of 72, then we dropped down to 68, and the rest of the items are in the 60s. Yeah, the next item up past the chimney liner is the athletic park clubhouse renovations for 63,000. I don't know if
Are
that,
we, do we have anything below the line, though, that we know is condition critical that just can't wait? I mean, I hate to risk some catastrophic failure. I see that roof is down there for that public safety building. We've ranked that before and left it go. It
Yeah.
doesn't say it's critical. I mean, we always keep thinking you can squeak one more year out of stuff, and, and they have marked critical. They have that fence and that gate at DPW. I mean, even if we build a fleet garage, that facility isn't going away.
no.
We took a tour down there, and they showed us the gate and the fact that it does not retract on its own. You have to get out of the vehicle and really push. It's big and heavy, and so they seem to think that was a critical need down there.
The same with the garage door repairs. I know the doors that they're looking to replace
Yeah.
don't meet the safety requirements.
Well, I'm a little
so.
concerned there about employee safety, if that's the
Yeah.
case. So, I mean, if we could flip-flop something, maybe.
I mean, if we could move a small one up on the list, that would definitely,
Garage doors are only 30.
30.
So the critical ones would be the bike polo. I don't know, Jamie, I see is here for the bike polo. Also, what are the implications of the playground delay? Because we got really behind at one point on playground replacements. I don't know, it's just marked high, but
Well, we only had the 2 playgrounds left, and they weren't so bad. I mean, the ones we got rid of, that we replaced were super bad.
If I remember correctly, those 2 playgrounds, the ones that were slated for replacement, were, what are they, 2007, 2008?
Yeah, Westview was probably early to mid-2000s, but it's in good shape, and it's not highly utilized. I mean, it's got utilization from the neighborhood, but it's not, I mean, it's only the people that live down there that are using it. It's just not widely used. It's off the beaten path enough that unless you live down there, you really don't even know it's back there.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, the bigger question is if it meets ADA requirements. I know that's a
Yeah.
concern, so.
And just echoing the parking lot situation with Rivers, and Sylvan Hill, that's becoming I mean, Sylvan Hill, that's almost used continually throughout the whole year. And that parking lot's becoming an embarrassment, and they continue to patch it, but, the winter months, the summer months, as a venue, I just keep,
Yeah, we keep seeing it. I mean, this is the
we
third or fourth
keep
time
seeing
we've
it, and
kicked it down the list.
it's just like the streets in the city, they don't get any better with constant use that, especially in the wintertime, Sylvan Hill does, because that's such a popular place, and winter shoveling does not do parking lots any good. So
Yeah.
I'm just raising, some of the things on the list below that
How
we've
big is
seen.
that, how big is that parking lot? I guess I ask only because we have the equipment now at DPW to do larger sections of road repair. So if we would need to do a larger little piece of that,
Sylvan Hill's a large parking lot.
it's big, okay.
It's good size. I don't think just an overlay is going to fix that parking lot.
Okay.
It's going to need to be reconstructed. The last time I was there, it's practically gravel now.
What if we reshuffle the deck here, the numbers then, and see like if we can get, let's say, what if we got half of the phone system upgrade from that equipment fund? And then we get the River Edge Trail from the TID? Was that, what else were we gonna flip? How much extra we were gonna hold off on, we've already funded those 2 airport projects, so
Yeah.
that freed up some.
Yep.
Are we getting kind of where we need to be? I mean, we're out of money still before we get to the parking lot. If we elevated the 2 critical ones, the fence and the gate and that garage door repair, just because there's safety issues? We're still short then on that? We'd be short for the parking lot
We'd be
anyway.
short, yeah, the parking lot is fairly down the list. Yeah, it's even below.
That could be something that we could examine for project savings. Like at the end of the construction season, when we have our street and road budget and we have our other capital projects that are underway now, if something comes in under budget, or, like if we have either project savings or, I mean, they could probably look at it from surplus too, but you hate to drain the surplus in case we get a winter that's not like last winter. But, that could be something that maybe we put a pin in, and if towards the end of the year, I mean, I know the parking lots get done, this is a 2025 budget,
Yeah.
so before that season would take flight, we'd know if we had additional dollars that we didn't bargain for from this year that we could use. We just kind of put a sticker next to that one, and if we come out better than we expected, which is possible.
most of these, we also submitted to ARPA. And while, like, the tennis courts and the council chambers video had been delayed CIP projects for several years, and they did get funded by ARPA, the rest of these, you'd kind of put a pin in.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, the solar it will go to council, but it didn't pass out of finance, right? It was a tie. Was it a tie, or did it
Witness-
fail?
It
Finance.
was,
I know it didn't pass.
it was 3-2.
Okay.
It was mixed, it was a mixed vote.
Is that the lighting upgrade?
No,
No,
the.
this is solar.
the-
Solar
the
array.
water-
Right,
yeah,
I
the water-
would have spent the balance
Water.
of our funds.
Treatment.
So that will go to council.
The one for the water plant, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, water plant solar project.
That actually, the task force did a fantastic job, and they've really worked hard to overcome all of the concerns of the neighborhood. So if that, and there was a lot, so if that, we got to talk about that, because if that reduces the cost of the operating at the plant, we got to have serious talk about that.
Yeah.
That wasn't on here, though, is it?
No, that's
No,
not on
but
there.
what I'm saying
But we were
is-
talking about ARPA allocations.
Oh, I
Right.
see, I
Yeah.
see.
Right, so we're, continuing to go through and monitor the project. So, I'm suggesting perhaps we could reconsider some of these deferrals in ARPA again.
Well, would something like that, if depending on how that solar array goes, if we had money left, if we have money in the ARPA fund, would we be able to get contracts signed for, say, Sylvan Hill and for Riverside Park before the end of the year?
I think so.
For the end of this year?
Yeah.
Don't you think, Eric?
For an ARPA allocation?
We could bid those out for spring construction or even fall, because we just did pre-quals for the West River Edge, and we had 5 or 6 contractors take out.
Well, and asphalt is
What-
available at the plant until just about, well, mid-November normally.
Mid-November, yeah.
And they work right through the fall, kind of, so.
Question, is the upgrades for this council chambers, that's all in the works, right? Because
Yes.
of the technology and everything to make it nice?
Yeah.
And feed to the citizens, that's all in the works?
Yes. Mhm.
Great, thanks.
It became really important when we had to yell. When the microphones
Yeah.
yelled, boy, did that get our attention. Right, I mean,
Yeah, when this room doesn't work, you notice it quick.
well,
so.
that's true. When it's all
Yeah.
functioning, we go, we can wait a little bit. but
Yeah.
So Andy Lynch is here now too. So they were talking about funding that River Edge Trail with TID, the balance of the 250.
Right, thank you. Right, basically I put this before the CIP to go through the process and to kind of give you a choice of how you wanted to fund that remaining section, whether it was through TID or through CIP. And, whichever way it is fine with me. We're still kind of working through the process of getting the crossing authorized. So our target date is to do construction next year. But that's still dependent on a couple different factors. But, just having wanted to present give the council choices on how the remaining bit of that funding is allocated, so.
Yeah. Lisa?
My thought on that was that if we could get, it would be a part of the CIP recommendation, but it would be funded through TID. So,
through TID.
Not like
Oh, yeah.
an ARPA request where you put it in and it doesn't get funded and it just sits. When we complete our CIP, we're figuring out how to fund it, whether we're funding it with levy, whether we're funding it with debt, whether we're funding it with partner funding, room tax, whatever. If we were to approve this under CIP and we were then to look to leverage TID funds for it, would it be existing increment or would it be debt that we take on in the TID?
I think that we would fund it out of TID 3, and they would probably have cash to fund it.
Okay, so then we wouldn't take on levy debt for it. but
Right.
We'd still get it done. That was kind of where I was thinking. Because too, then that spreads out the sharing of the cost among all of the taxing jurisdictions while that TID is active.
Yeah.
And that trail is used by more than just the people that live down there. There's a lot of usage of those now more than ever.
No, it's a good,
So-
yeah, it's good to see that extender, especially when there's talk about extending that trail all the way to Merrill. So,
There's excitement for that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. That could be a catalyst.
Well, and I think I was just reading the business news this morning, and Tim White said, from their surveys, when people come to visit Wausau, they typically do 2 outdoor activities on each visit. And so I do think trails have become really something that people seek out.
I saw that article too, and they really have been working hard. I attended their tourism lunch a month or so ago, and they were, as an entity, they really are pushing their outdoor base camp theme, where they want people to come and capitalize on the 4 seasons and outdoor offerings in the entire area. So I think that only gets better, if they're coming and already doing 2 things on average. They're continuing to promote those spaces.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job of it, especially on the bike stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So, with that said, so I guess, maybe put a pin in these two parking lots, Riverside and Sylvan Hill, with ARPA funding dependent on what we have available to us. We've got I think we found enough funding for the phone system upgrade, chimney liner. I think if we take the 250 out, that gets us through the chimney liner.
Yep.
Does it
And
get us through
the
it?
Athletic park, if you go down to athletic park.
Okay.
House renovations, you would
Yep.
be at 552.
Okay, athletic park gives us to 552.
So did that cause, did we move up also then the fence and gate and the garage door?
I don't think so.
Because that's what we were trying to free up space
Yeah.
to do.
Did I put it?
So if we strike athletic park and then move up,
Yeah, I have it at 0.
let's see, steel door replacement for 30,000 and the fence and gate for 35, that's 65,000. That probably gets us to what, 555?
Yeah.
But,
What were we taking out? I'm sorry.
if we take out athletic park, clubhouse renovation and swap in, garage doors
In the gate.
and the gate.
Okay.
Well, and the athletic park clubhouse renovation, I get that that building isn't brand new, and that they want it. I mean, we've got teams playing there. The only teams that use it are the Chucks and then obviously the upcoming softball team. Like 3 months of the year. I mean, it's not, if it was non-functional, it would be different, but, I feel like some of these things are like, they're a safety risk, right? Like the fence and the garage door and, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if that would keep for a year, the softball team isn't even going yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could they hobble that one more year and then put that, athletic park's a draw, but so many investments have been made there, mostly privately funded, but, and I know they want to keep the momentum going. They want the player experience to be as good as the fan experience is, but, is this the time? I mean, we're in a tight year.
Yep.
And with the reval, the mayor's message has been that we need to keep everything to a low roar because it's going to be rough, so.
This is the first year we're seeing that, the clubhouse, right?
That is
I think
correct.
so.
Yeah.
Can I add a few things?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Of course, yes, thanks.
So the reason why the amount is so small too is 63,000. I mean, if we were going to do a major renovation, it would be much more than that. What we're asking to do with that amount of funding is to make the clubhouse ADA accessible.
Oh.
It is not ADA accessible at the moment. And with the upcoming softball team that is scheduled to start this next year in 2025, it's going to be used a little bit differently. Like right now, the Woodchucks players go in, they put their stuff in, they're the only users of that. Come next year, when we do have a softball team, the men will take their stuff out after each game, the women will bring their stuff in, they'll take their stuff out, and the men's will be a lot more in and out. But right now, too, how the bathrooms are set up, it's like one urinal and one toilet and then one shower. It's not really conducive to what we should have for even a restroom facility for men and women. So the minimal amount, and we may be able to take some of that out of our small project fund
Okay.
too, but it is really to make it, to redo the restroom area and the shower for the dual use, and then to make it ADA accessible. There's a lot more that could be done with that building.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know. What do you guys think? It's a tough one.
Yeah, that one, yeah. ahead.
So because of are our fees increased then because of the extra use on athletic park by the softball team, or how does that work?
Funded through use, maybe?
Right,
We have a contract, a use agreement that was already approved, that you already approved as a
Right,
council
right,
with softball.
right.
So we will have additional fees coming in from the additional use, yes. They're not particularly paying for the clubhouse, but they're
Right,
paying for
no, I
the field use like the
understand, right.
men.
okay, thank you.
That would cover, that would cover the
Yes,
maintenance of the
correct.
field, but not
Most likely,
necessarily
right.
the upgrades for the
Correct.
capital
The
part.
general use of the
Yeah.
field itself and the facility.
Correct.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
On the phone system, would the department head give me some information on, is it needed this year? If half the funds come from some other existing fund that the city has, will that affect some of the things that that department's doing?
The phone system is running on hardware servers that are at an end of life and end of support that happens in the middle of next year. So I also submitted $380,000 request to the county and $250,000 to North Central Healthcare because we share the phone system across the three of them.
So if they upgrade the phones, on those entities upgrade the phones, we almost have to upgrade the phones too.
I have been very fortunate over the years when I've had to do infrastructure projects, I've been able to get your CIP committee to do things the same time as the county CIP committee. I haven't had a situation where I'm like, okay, the county funded something and the city didn't fund their portion of it yet. I'm hoping that doesn't happen again.
I think we've had that before. We've had that before.
I know,
It's been close a few times, but we've always been able to sort of figure out how to make it happen. like
Servers,
Lisa
I think, was the
suggested.
big one.
That assessment software years ago, yeah.
Is it one turnkey upgrade, or is it something that could be phased, where you split it? 'Cause
It's mostly a full upgrade at the same time because it's running physically on a whole bunch of servers that we have now here on site
And you just
at
cut
City
over.
Hall, and we will start moving over to their cloud solution.
I see.
So, I mean, it will be done and it'll take the whole year.
So it's
It'll take
not
most of the
something,
year to
it's not
do,
something that you
but
do
we
in
have to
one
commit to
building
it.
and then go to another building
No,
where
we
you
have-
can split your time?
We need to commit to the license.
I see.
And was that, you talked about funding from another source for partial?
Part of it was
the
equipment
Request,
Will
yeah.
will that affect the department in the future, taking money out of that?
I don't know how much money's in that account, but it's been, I think, Mary Ann, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that money gets separately built up and then it gets pushed in to pay for things as they're requested, right?
Yes. Well, we budget equal amount for certain departments every year. And like you, for your PC maintenance
Yeah.
or replacement, all of those things. And then the funds are carried over, but they're typically not carried over for a specific thing. They're
So it
just
won't
a
be
carryover.
detrimental to the
I looked-
department.
It
the
shouldn't
carry-
be. So one thing I should clarify, we usually get asked for, I think it's 25,000. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Ann, but I think we do a recurring account for 25,000 to replace phones. I won't need that next year if we're in the middle
Very
of
good.
the phone upgrade. So the 25,000 that I would normally do to replace broken stuff, we could certainly put towards that project.
Thank
So
you.
but I'm not positive. Mary Ann, I have to double check. I think it's 25,000.
You know, if he doesn't need the 25, and we got 75 from their equipment fund,
Yeah.
that's 100.
It's 100.
We really only have 50 on this,
Yeah.
Yep.
right?
Okay.
That's helpful.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be, obviously not going to replace phones like a few months beforehand. We'll just swap around broken stuff until we make the date for conversion.
Yeah. Gary?
Well, just getting back to baseball, you know, athletic park is, with two teams, I think that even the clubhouse has to be, in the long term, I mean, it's becoming an important part of that athletic park. Both teams now, I think we have to find our money somewhere for that project. We just can't let that, I think eventually we have to find a clubhouse for visiting teams. I think it's very important for that, for the future of baseball. 60 games most likely in that park during the summer. Teams coming and going. I think we have to find money for that somewhere.
We should. I mean, I thought the visiting team accommodation was part of the renovation that was done to the building behind the park that was now the woodchuck office, right? There's an accommodation for visiting teams clubhouse. I think it's newer than what our teams have,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, and those two teams are the only teams allowed to use it. The high schools can't use it and the Legion teams are not allowed to use it. They show up with their gear and they have to show up dressed. So, but yeah, I mean, I do agree that stuff has to also be ADA accessible. I mean, even though your assumption is that the players are ambulatory, the coaches may not be. So,
How was it even built without,
well, right, well, it was
Built in the
before the
80s.
requirement in the 80s, so
Yeah.
that was always an afterthought. Sometimes it felt like so we need how
So
much?
it's probably
63? How much
63.
short would we be if we add up what we've got for now?
So if we have the 20,000 for the airbags, the 54,000 for the fire station cascade system, 31 for the door control, 52 for the turnout gear, 51 for the lift, 50 for the phone system upgrade, 130 for the liners, 63 for the athletic park, 30 for the garage door, and 35 for the fence. That would come to 517, 427.
Okay,
We're pretty close.
pretty close. So that leaves 30,000.
Left, that we
Left.
can still allocate.
Yeah.
And was the parking lots in that? It was not.
No.
parking lot.
The one's
I think we-
180.
I think we identified maybe an ARPA request for the parking lots
Okay.
if dependent.
I feel like
On
project
what's-
savings even too, we should look at.
Yeah.
You know, when we get to the end of the construction season, like October, see what the stuff we're building comes in at, right? Would we have some extra that could be
Yeah.
shifted?
We usually don't have savings
Well, you
of that.
never know. I mean, if
magnitude.
something would come in, I mean, it hasn't been coming in under budget, but if we had contingency on a project that wasn't collected, or we had, you know, something, they don't often finish early, I know that, but
Yeah, I don't.
the, the one item we have, what do we have for, that's even close to that amount?
Well, I was looking here on the list here
We
to see what.
took all the
what we
small
could-
stuff.
Public safety roof is
Oh, yeah.
50,000.
So you didn't talk about the public safety roof, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we had 30 left, that means we're short 20 on that item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Well, that's-
otherwise, there's LED lighting for 45. I think we can probably manage with the lighting for another year. The roof, I think, is a little more critical.
Would we have a source where we could find that 20 that's short to get that roof? At least get that roof started because it's phased?
I think 50,000 is phase one.
Right. So we'd
So-
get phase, well, but we had 30 left of what we were allocating.
Yeah, so we'd need another 20
We're
from
still
some.
20 short, so we'd
from-
need 20 from somewhere.
From somewhere to get that, yeah, to get there.
I mean, it'd be nice to get that started before all three sections are failed and then we're stuck with a big, big
A
project.
big roof, yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
You could maybe do carryover for that. I could look to see if we had savings from something for the 20 grand.
Yeah.
That might be doable.
Might- So, portion.
That'd be worth looking at, I feel
Yeah,
like, right? I
if-
mean, you hate to get to a point where all of a sudden you need either two sections or all three sections and we're never flush with cash, so
This
know.
is the second or third year that it's been requested.
at least the second, I think
Yeah.
it might be the third.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll commit to finding,
if we can,
She's on a search
20
for
grand.
20K, yes.
yeah, okay.
I feel like that really would get us to the stuff on the list that feels like it's,
really,
there, right.
the maintenance issues that we really need to chip away at, yeah.
yeah. And if the rest of it would, because that's the trouble, when we got behind on maintenance and equipment,
Mm-hmm.
we really had a hole to dig out of in this process, it felt like, for a few years there.
Yeah,
I mean, we had, 3 years where half the list was critical. So,
okay. Jamie, it looks like she's got some insight here.
I have maybe some good news.
I
for
like
you.
good news.
I
Okay.
don't like to give away money, but we will have about a $15,000 savings from the bollards. So you allocated me last year 40,000,
Mm-hmm.
and the bill is 20,735 for that, and then we had shipping on top of that. So I mean, just to give
so
myself.
for
a
the
cushion.
400 block stuff, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
those bollards are ordered and they should be here. We will have a little bit of costs with the pads that we have to put them on, so that's
Mm-hmm.
why I say, give me that extra 5,000 on top of the bill. So we have probably 15,000 or close to
Oh,
15
okay.
in savings.
Oh, great. Okay.
That would be
Okay.
helpful.
If we have that, I think that might be enough to
Yeah.
kind of squeeze in
Yep.
that last item there.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah,
The roof piece?
the roof, is, public safety roof,
Well, I'll remember this.
yeah.
We have a ledger in the office.
Right. That's helpful because it gets us where we need to be.
Because I think that's the last of the
Yep.
critical maintenance issues that are listed here. You know, we've identified a fund source or potential fund source for the rest of just about everything that's critical on the list, so. And the other items might be, but we might be able to defer for another year.
I feel like that's true.
Okay.
Have we included the athletic park on that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, okay,
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
following.
yeah, athletic park would be in that.
So then if we go down the list, the 20 grand for the airbags, the runway would be in the budget funded with carryover.
From last year, yep.
From
Or
the
this year, yeah.
fire station cascade system, the door control, the turnout gear, the lift. The apron is funded from carryover from prior budget. Asset management would be deferred.
Okay?
The River Edge Trail would be room tax and TID funded. The phone system would be funded 50,000 out of 2025 money, and the balance would be either carryover or the current 2025 operating or
Replacement
allotment
fund?
of capital from the replacement fund. The chimney of 130, 63 for the athletic park. Playground equipment would be deferred. Riverside Park parking lot would be deferred. The steel roof replacement on Building 2 would be deferred. The garage door of 30 would be in the budget. No funding for the architectural design of the new fire station. Runway 31 would be funded with carryover of a prior budget for the exact same thing. Public safety roof, 50,000. The LED would be deferred. The gate would be in the budget. Sylvan Park would be deferred. The truck scale would be deferred. The tennis courts would be deferred. And the street division office repairs would be deferred.
Did you, I might have missed this. Did you say that the steel roof replacement for Building 2, that's deferred?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought, okay.
I have just a quick question, I guess, on that street division office repairs and stuff. The stuff that they had depicted, like in their photos and stuff, where they had, little cracked drywall and ceiling things and carpet squares and whatever that all was. Don't we have a small budget amount that Leo has every year for that type of maintenance and minor repair type stuff? I mean,
He has it, it's generally absorbed or, depleted each year because it's really just for City Hall.
okay.
It really wasn't for exterior buildings.
So that's something that maybe we should try to look at as we go forward in the next few budget years, is maybe see if that could be infused to incorporate other public facilities. Because we've got all these different buildings all over, and some are new, but they don't stay new forever. So if we could, even have a small allocation that builds up annually per building, even if
Yeah.
it's 5,000 per building, like, let that start to, like the equipment fund. So
Yeah.
then when he needs to do some drywall or replace a carpet or whatever, that he doesn't have to
Yep. So that would be in that 450.
leave it.
Well,
I mean, I remember when he was trying to do the police department carpet, it took 3 cycles of this to get
yeah.
it for him, so.
Just a line
I
item, can't we have just a line, just a small part of the budget?
Yeah.
I would think
Right.
that would be a part of that, just so that each building gets
Right,
its own
Yeah.
due maintenance.
right.
And
And
I
it
think,
isn't,
yeah, and I think part of the ask though too was for reconfiguring, wasn't it the fleet and the parts offices?
I think, yeah, and we toured that. The parts office is super tight. I
Yeah.
mean, there's not a lot of, the changing room is, and the parts inventory room off on the side where we walked in, that is Arctic cold in the winter and it's oven hot in the summer.
Yeah.
And the distance between that area and the shower facility is ridiculously long. Like,
Yep.
you have to go through the office like that way. So
So-
it was not good. I mean, that needs more than just,
More than this though.
for sure.
Yeah.
So is infrastructure or somebody talking about that facility plan for that?
I feel like they should be. They just started this term taking over the audit of the status of public facilities when we made it infrastructure and facilities, but I feel like that's something that Chad should take up in there, just to at least get a current status of where each building is, because if you were gonna build a fund like this, some of them don't need anything right now. Like Station 2 doesn't need as much as what you would need for, maybe the DPW office or, the buildings that are aging.
And,
So,
and if we ever get our new fleet maintenance facility, that, some of those issues will be
Well, and when you think of the
So-
things facility-wise that we've had CIP for before,
Yeah.
like we've had, like minor kitchen repairs at Station 3, and we've had, some of that stuff waits 2-3 years. It only degrades more. So if we had a little bit of a fund, like aligned, I mean, it's kind of like motor pool, but it's for buildings, where if you needed carpet in a room or you needed ceiling tiles somewhere or whatever, that you could just get that handled and not play this lottery for maintenance that then gets to be big jobs.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So. All right.
I feel like we have this list dialed in, though it really looks like we're getting to a good spot with
I
it.
think so. I think you're right. I mean, we've picked off most of what we can and deferred. I hate to see anything deferred, but I think it's the least critical items on the list. One thing I'd like to see, maybe, if we want to get the ball rolling on these parking lots at Riverside and Sylvan Hill, if we can get, if the finance committee can get ARPA requests in front of them
Okay.
sooner than later,
Okay.
then we would be able to at least work in tandem with, we have those projects ready to go.
Well, and that kind of plugs into that logic that we were talking about
Yeah.
with ARPA funds, where you want these like active outdoor spaces where people can not be
Yeah.
confined indoors, I mean, we used it a lot for equipment and things, but the facility has to be decent when you go there as well, so
Yep.
it makes
yeah.
some sense.
And, and we're getting down to the funding deadline, so we need to have stuff like that in front of the committee.
That's like
so that
ready
they
to
can-
roll, yeah.
Yeah, so they can roll, they can get that stuff moved ahead.
Yep.
So, all right. I guess anything else on the list? Jim?
Just comment, when I looked at that list, I thought it was very daunting, and I was really impressed today to see how much we've got done on that list with the funds we had available and how this committee and the city staff went around finding other money to get more done. That's really impressive, and I think it's good for the community.
Yeah, I would agree. For the number of times I've served on the CIP committee, it always kind of happens that way. You see the rankings and you've got enough funds for like maybe 5 projects, but when you go through each item line by line and analyze where we can pull funds from, it's, we can do good things. So. Elisa?
So we need to vote on this, right? So I'll make a motion that we accept the list as modified here in the meeting,
All right.
and then forward it to finance as a recommendation for the budget.
Okay, I have a motion from Rasmussen to accept the list as modified and to move it to finance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Gisselman. Any discussion on that?
Well,
Go
I'll
ahead.
just say about the other things on the list. I've been on this committee off and on a variety of years, and is it this committee really that should be thinking about the long haul about how we resolve some of the things that just, the maintenance issue of buildings that just came up. Every building that we have has maintenance issues that we should be providing for, if nothing else, in the budget. It doesn't really need to be coming here, I wouldn't think, but it should be part of the usual running of city government. And that's just some of the, I think we need to tell the citizens, that there's some kind of a planning here for some of the things that keep playgrounds or whatever, that the things that get dropped, I think we need to figure out how we're going to be doing these into the future.
I think for long-term, we need to, I think this is something that, as more of a long-term strategy that infrastructure and facilities needs to really tackle. More than CIP. I mean, we meet maybe 2-3 times a year, but infrastructure meets year-round, and that is something that they could probably put on their
Agendas.
agendas.
Well, and they did just take over the official responsibility. The building situation just found a home this term, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a good thing for them, even like for Chad to begin with, is at least an inventory of the current state of each building. Like, they should have a working knowledge of what the needs are and what's coming down the line. And then they can maybe make a recommendation to finance to seed the fund that we talked about, with a little bit here and there every year Doesn't have to be an extreme amount, but there has to be at least a little something so that everything doesn't become this like critical emergency stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and maybe something like that, we'll see, we would see less of these kind of critical projects hit CIP.
Well, and you still
And-
want the big ones, you know, when
Yeah.
something costs 700,000 or whatever it's gonna be, that's different, but, you know, if like sometimes you'll see little projects get added together to meet the 25. That little stuff they should be able to take care of without this.
Yep.
You know, like just get it done so that it doesn't become its own 25,000, you know, the little stuff. So that's what I'd like to see happen.
Okay.
Ju-
Yeah.
I know this is not, is there just one, how many maintenance people do we have for all of the facilities?
That'd be a
we-
good question for Eric.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so we have Leo, you know, who's the supervisor, the manager. Then we have one full-time and one part-time.
And then we have like two guys from DPW who like right now are working on the parking ramps,
Right,
things
they're,
like that.
they're
Right,
equipment
right.
operators, but they work in what we call the carpenter shop, and during the times that they aren't needed on the street, they help out with the facilities.
Because I think of city, the grill work needs to, you know, somebody needs to make a request one of these years to attach the grill work on front of City Hall, you know, so
Yeah,
that,
Leo's working on that. It's been a real challenge for us. I mean, even some of the grid work and some of that is deteriorating behind the aluminum. And so Leo's been in contact with some people to try to take it off, repair it, and.
I know that's not a
So
subject for this
I
meeting, but.
completely agree and appreciate the comment. yeah.
Up on the second floor, the foyer there, the paneling.
I wonder if
Yeah.
some historic renovation funds would be available for that.
You're asking the right guy.
Yep.
He's like, He's thinking about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so,
Okay.
all right, thank you, Eric. Okay, any other discussion? All right, and then not hearing anything else, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And that carries. Okay, well, thank you much.
That worked good.
Yeah, now we just need a motion to adjourn. Motion from Gisselman, second from Wadinsky. All those in favor say aye. Aye, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.